Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. It's the first week of June, and it's a quiet month on the Michigan athletic scene. The portal is still making news with a handful of transfers around the country in both basketball and football, and official visits are in full swing for Jim Harbaugh and his staff. Next month, things will start to heat up with Big Ten Media Days. The Wolverine Preview magazine will be out, along with most other preseason publications, and the anticipation will grow to a fever pitch as the start of another season draws near. It will be here sooner than you think. In the meantime, I thought it would be interesting to catch up with a Michigan legend this week and talk about his playing days in the Big House and what he's doing now. Joining me on this week's Game Day segment is Wolverine great Denard Robinson, the Assistant Director of Player Personnel for Michigan football. That's next here on The Michigan Man, so stay with us. Here with us on the Game Day segment of our show today is Michigan great Denard Robinson. Denard, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you, man. How you doing, my man, Mike?
Well, as you and I just discussed, I'm doing well, and we're all pretty amped up about the upcoming season, but we have a little time to get there, so I thought, hey, it would be great to get one of our Michigan greats on the line today and talk about your career, what you're doing. So let's start with that, because I'm sure a lot of people know you're back at Michigan in the capacity of Assistant Director of Player Personnel, but tell the listeners exactly what it is you do in that capacity.
Watch a lot of film, trying to find the best players across the world. If you can play football, we want you here. You got some. If you're smart enough to get into the University of Michigan, we'll love you here. Right now, just doing a whole bunch of recruiting, help out when guys get on campus, and watch a lot of film and just try to find the guys that that somebody will miss.
So, are you actually out on the recruiting trail, or is it just that breaking down the film and helping in that respect?
Just breaking down the film and watching it, So I'm literally in the office. I can't go on the road because I'm not a coach, so only coaches go on the road and get to go see guys. So I just try to get in. I try to go ahead and watch the guys and try to make a list for the guys to watch, for the coaches to watch, and I put some lists together. Hopefully guys pop.
Well, I think most Michigan fans will say we are glad to have you back in any capacity, but especially in looking at future Wolverines. So that's great. But let's talk about, if we could, something I know a lot of our listeners want to talk about, and that was your playing days at Michigan, which we all remember so well. When you were recruited out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, by Coach Rodriguez, you had a lot of options for college. Remind us again, what made you choose Michigan?
The opportunity just to come here. I mean, just being in the Big House when I came on my official visit, just being able to, we had football fight in the Big House. How can you turn that down? I mean, that was my first time ever seeing snow and being able to play in it and just enjoying it. I remember just being in the Big House, saying, man, I could make something happen in this place one day. My mom loved the school aspect of it. Not to be honest with you, she was like, you're going to graduate, whatever college you go to, but she seen that Michigan was highly ranked in just about everything when it came down to schooling. And so I was like, man, this is where I'm going. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm going here. She was like, I never done playing before, but if you're going, we're going. So that helped me out. My dad helped sway my mom to accept the fact that I was going to the University of Michigan, and she had to get on some planes to come see me.
Well, when you were in high school, because of your style, I'm sure a lot of schools were recruiting you as a quarterback, but there had to be a lot of them that said, hey, we'd like to try you at receiver or running back, weren't there?
Oh, yeah, it was a couple schools that said they wanted to try me at receiver, quarterback, receiver, corner, running back, safety, all types of stuff, punt return, kick return guy, all that stuff. But I was headstrong about playing quarterback, and I told everybody that didn't offer me as a quarterback that I wouldn't, take them serious. That kind of helped me narrow it down a little bit.
Well, growing up in Florida, I know just like everywhere else in the country, I'm sure you had a chance to watch Michigan football when you were younger with Coach Lloyd Carr being at the helm. But when you were being recruited, again, because you were a different style than anyone had seen at Michigan, did you ever sit back and say, I love the academics at the University of Michigan. I love the opportunity. But I wonder how I'm going to fit into those offenses.
Rich Rodriguez had done a great job with recruiting in his resume of quarterbacks that he had. So, I got in contact with a couple guys that he had coached, like a guy like Shar King, Pat White. Those guys kind of helped me feel comfortable about making the decision to come here. He had a good resume with the quarterbacks that can run, move like me, and throw the ball and do things that I do. So I went off of him. I went off Rich Rodriguez's background and everything. And my dad did some research. We did some research. We liked what he did and how he did the quarterbacks, So I thought I could have success in his offense.
Well, when you arrived on the scene here, Denard, as we all remember, we were in need of a starting quarterback. And your freshman year, you battled it out with Nick Sheridan, fellow freshman Tate Forcier. Tate was enrolled early, though, so he sort of had a jump on things, but you still had a lot of action your freshman year, didn't you?
Yeah, so I try to tell people all the time, like, this portal thing is really big right now. And I try to tell people, like, hey, it don't matter how you start, it's about how you finish, So I tell people all the time, like, I didn't start my freshman year. I didn't start. Now, I don't think I started any games my freshman year. And I sat behind a guy named Tate Forcier, and he was pretty good. And in my mind, I was like, man, am I going to sit behind this guy for 4 years? I had to look deep in myself and try to realize, like, okay, how can I be the best me and be able to get on the football field? And so, with the transfer portal, some of these guys, they would have probably transferred without even, trying to compete again the next year. So I believe in competing. I think those are the type of guys that we want here that's going to compete and not sway away from competition.
Well, as you said, you didn't start that freshman year, but one of the things I remember best was the first time you touched the ball at Michigan. I think it was against Western Michigan in the opener in the big house. My seats were in the end zone you scored in, and you just ran by everyone. It looked like Western Michigan thought, okay, he's fast. And if memory serves me correct, I think he even bobbled that snap too, didn't you?
Yes, I fumbled a snap because I was so busy calling the cadence. And I'll never forget because the play before, and you watched the film, the play before, I actually called the cadence. Only one guy heard me say it. And so the next play, I tried to yell. I screamed it instead of paying attention to catching the snap. I ended up dropping the snap, and the rest is history.
Well, heading into your sophomore year, it was once again a battle between you and Tate Forcier for that starting quarterback job. And if memory serves me correct, Coach Rodriguez didn't make a decision on who would start in the opener against UConn until pretty close to game day, did he?
We didn't know who started. They kept it tight to the chest. They wouldn't tell us anything. So we was just battling the whole summer. And if I remember, Devin was there. Devin Gardner was there too. So it was like one of those situations where we all three of us taking reps with the ones and trying to figure out what's going to happen. And it's one of those situations you just got to be ready.
Yeah.
When your numbers call, you better be ready. So I stayed ready, so I didn't have to get ready.
Well, and you were ready. You had a solid game against UConn, but I think for most Michigan fans, and I know for the national media, the game that got everyone's attention was, I think it was the next week down at South Bend. You had really an eye-popping 502 yards of total offense. It was a 28-24 win over the Irish, 258 yards passing, 244 yards rushing. I mean, you just dominated the game, and you still have to smile when you think about that one, Denard.
Yeah, definitely smile about that one because that was like one of those statement wins and one of those statement performances I think I had, in my career. So it was like one of those ones that like I didn't know what was happening when I was in it. After I got done, Dave told me what I had, what kind of numbers I put up, and he was just like, "That's crazy." And I was like, I couldn't believe I did that because that's like I feel like that's what I used to do in like NCAA, on the video game.
Yeah.
So when I created my guy, like correct the players on NCAA and you play with them, and they have like 500 yards, 200 yards passing, 300 yards rushing, whatever. And I couldn't believe it. I didn't know I had that much running and passing.
Well, I mean, it was incredible to watch. It's still one of the games that I remember so vividly. And I don't know if you would consider it sort of a coming out game, but I mean, it sure had folks nationally saying, hey, this guy is something else. But I mean, your first few seasons at Michigan were really filled with highlight reel performances like that. I mean, you're running a wide open offense, which is what Rich Rod was known for. And not everyone in that Michigan fan base was in love with that style of football. Everyone was, it was a huge departure from what we had seen for decades and decades of smash mouth football. Do you think Coach Rodriguez was ahead of his time with his offensive philosophy?
Definitely. I mean, he's one of the guys that did it at a high level and did it on this level. I think a lot of people now are starting to do it now. Like, he was way before his time. I mean, the stuff that he had us reading, how we had to read it, and how we had to pre-snap read and make sure we knew where we was going with the ball, who was reading, and everything like that. So I think he definitely was ahead of his time because I'm seeing now the NFL is starting to do it now. Everybody's trending towards that spread offense and being able to throw the ball heavy. RPOs. So I think that's the biggest thing, that those things are like actually starting to trend into like that. And I've done that. It was almost 10 years ago. More than that.
Yeah.
I got that. Well, it's been a while. That you see that trend, and now you can't go without running offense without being spread out or have the RPOs with it. So it's kind of cool to see. And Rich Rod was definitely before his time, and I gotta praise him because he's the reason why I came in. He's the reason why y'all got to see those moments and be a part of it.
Well, and it was a crazy, exciting offense to watch, no doubt about it. But Rich Rod was let go. Brady Hoke was named head coach. As I recall, there was speculation at the time, hey, maybe Denard's going to transfer, but you stuck it out. Did you ever give serious consideration to, maybe going somewhere else?
I got to say, McGee too, Calvin McGee, he was one of the ones that helped me learn the offense. He's a big part of that offense. He was offensive coordinator that year with Rich Rod. And to go off the question you just asked, no, that never even crossed my mind. I mean, I literally was in here telling guys not to transfer, and I literally was working out, not knowing who's going to be the head coach. We just knew that we was going to be great the next year. And we knew we had something to build off from the year before. I mean, we only, we went 6-6 that year. And but we knew we'd be a special team, 6 or 7. But we knew it was going to be a special team. And the guys in this room, the guys in the locker room knew that too. So David Moe, some of the other guys that was there, me, Mike Martin, we just started working out. We was working out. We didn't care who's going to be the head coach. We just knew we was going to be here. We had built a bond of being brothers, and we wasn't leaving each other at all. It was never, if anybody ever said it was talk, it was never talk about me leaving because I never said anything about it.
Well, and we were all glad that you stuck around to finish your career, and it was an interesting, it was a fascinating career, but you got to play for Coach Rodriguez, but then you ended your career under Coach Brady Hoke. How did you like playing for him? Because that's a whole different, maybe not a huge difference in style, but a different personality, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely different personality. Definitely different personality. But they both good guys. And I love playing with both of them. Everybody got their good about them, and everybody got their bad. But I only have good to say about both of those guys. Both of those guys, took me as if I was their son. They made sure I was taken care of. They did everything they had to do for me. So when Brady Holt, he came in, he had to get to know me. Once he got to know me, he knew I was a good guy. I was going to try to do whatever it took for University of Michigan to win. And the first thing he said to me, he's like, your position's not guaranteed. And I said I wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, you were involved in so many great moments during your career at Michigan. If I had to pick one that stands out to me as a fan of yours, I would say it would be that first night game in the Big House against Notre Dame. The ending was absolutely crazy. The game itself might have not been, perfect until the final few minutes, but I don't know if I've ever heard the Big House louder than that. Maybe Ohio State 2 years ago, it might have been, but do you count that game as one of your finest moments at Michigan?
Oh, it was one of them. Yeah, definitely. I think graduating was the biggest one, but that was the loudest I ever heard the Big House. I mean, it was 115,000 people there. I mean, that place was electric, and it's crazy. I threw a lot of interceptions that game, but nobody remember those because they remember the last play of us scoring. But what I do remember, I remember the interceptions. So it was kind of cool to see us come on top, win that game. I mean, I got guys from Notre Dame that still hate me to this day about that. They bring it up. They always like, man, I hate you for that reason. Just literally that night game, the feeling of us walking off that field, he said, it was, first of all, he said that was probably the loudest stadium he ever been in. And I'm like, a lot of people downplay Big House, but those guys that played on the Notre Dame team, they say that the ground was shaking and it was that loud. And I remember having been in that Big House and it was rocking. I remember having the jitters before that game because Charles Woodson and Desmond Howard gave a speech for the game, and it had me want to be one of those guys. It had me feeling like I got to press and be one of those guys. So that's why I think I came out of whack. And then, towards the end of the game, that's when we started getting it together. We put a crazy comeback win. So it was one of those games that we enjoy. We love talking about. Me and Roy Roundtree, Chris Bryant. That's around here, so. Yeah,
I mean, you're right. The ground was shaking. I was in the stands, but it was. And as I said before, I mean, I've never maybe heard Michigan Stadium that loud. One of the coolest things about that game, and I know you were out on the field after the game, is how long the fans stuck around, and it was still loud, wasn't it?
and that's what I tell people all the time. Like, some of the recruits come by, and I'll say, man, like, after that game, the fans never left the stands. Like, I remember coming back out to do an interview with, I think Game Day was at the time. I think Game Day was there for that. And going back to do the interview with Game Day, and I remember seeing, like, the stands still full. I don't know if the Notre Dame guys were still there, and they were just in awe, like, what just happened. But I know our fans were there standing there screaming. And it was a great feeling to walk back out there and to see our fans still there just, like, enjoying the moment, embracing it. Sometimes you forget to enjoy the moment. You want to take pictures instead. You just get there and sit there and just, enjoy the moment. I mean, that feeling of being a part of that game was crazy.
Well, it's my favorite Denard Robinson moment, I have to say that. And there were so many others. You had such a great career here. So many records broken, eye-popping performances. And as I said, fun for all fans to watch. But for you personally, when it was all said and done, and I guess it's been, I think, almost 14 years now, 13 or 14, since your last game in Michigan. When you sit back and think about it, if you do, what did it mean to you in the end to be a Michigan Wolverine?
It means a lot, man. Just being a part of this program. I mean, like, you want to be one of the guys that lay that brick, lay that foundation, for the upcoming guys. I mean, I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy that the first mobile quarterback that's running around and doing different things at University of Michigan, trying to break records and stuff like that. Just been a part of the brotherhood, just been around my friends. Like, I got forever brothers, like Aurora Roundtree, David Moak, Michael Schofield, Taylor Lewan, Devin Gardner, like those guys that was in that room with me, Nick Sheridan. So, like, being around those guys, like, it's cool to be able to talk to them again and just talk about things that happened and what we're going through now. And that's a brotherhood. Like, these guys I still stay in contact to this day. Like, we call each other, we in group chats, we always start watching the game together. So it's kind of crazy. Like, now I'm here, and when the group chat start blowing up, I'm like, all right, yeah, stop texting me, But before, I used to love the play-by-play and how we used to talk about the game, and it's like kind of cool to see, like, the group chat, and we still stay in contact after 13 years. 10 years the last time I played, so it's kind of cool to be a part of that. Was 14 when I first got in, but so it's like kind of cool to be a part of this and to graduate from a school like this and the brand and everything. I mean, my son is here now. He loves University of Michigan. He's already said Ohio State and all that stuff. So it's already boiling. So it's already in his DNA now.
I mean, we're glad to have you back. I think any Michigan fan would agree with that. And it's a great time to be back at the University of Michigan. It took Jim maybe a few years, but I think you have to say the program is surely elite. And, man, are we looking forward to this coming season or what?
There's a lot of excitement around the program right now. I mean, it's in good hands. Harbaugh got it in good hands. He got us rolling. We got everybody going. The coaches got everything going. The show staff is everything, man. I mean, the recruit staff. I mean, the coach got this thing rolling. He's hired the right guys. I mean, it's so exciting around here. I'm telling you. Can't wait for the season to start.
Well, amen. That's both of us. Well, final question before we let you get away, Denard. I mean, I could ask you a lot more questions, but we have time constraints, and you're a busy guy. But as we mentioned at the top, right now, you're Assistant Director of Player Personnel, and it sounds like you're loving it, and which is good. And you're still young, though. So do you have a plan or a vision for what you think you might like to do in football in future years in your career?
Yeah, I got plans that I want to do, but right now I'm a big guy that live in the moment and like to attack what I'm doing right now. I want to attack it to my best ability, and I write my goals down, but I like to attack what I'm doing right now, and I love what I'm doing. I love the people I'm working with. I love the people that I have to interaction with, the recruits and all this stuff. So I'm enjoying the whole process right now. I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, man. I love it. I come to work. I don't feel like I'm working, so it's kind of like cool to be here and understand, like, somebody say if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in your life, and I think that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, amen, and that's good to hear. So as I said, it sounds like we missed a lot, talking about a lot in your career, but that's okay. So maybe we can catch up some other time and do this again. But until then, great to have you back as a Michigan Wolverine in the program, Denard. And I thank you for your time and look forward to maybe visiting again in the future.
Hopefully visit again in the future. Definitely connect again. And I appreciate you for having me on the show. And go Blue.
On Quick Hits today, thanks again to Michigan great Denard Robinson for taking time to join us. Most of you know this, but let me remind you again. We're on our summer schedule of 2 shows a month until we resume regular programming in August. So we aren't going away, just slowing down to enjoy our very fast summer before Big Ten Media Days gets here and camp opens in August. Our next show will publish on June 22nd or thereabouts. So that does it for now. Get out there and enjoy summer, and make sure you tune us in again later this month. Also, be sure to tell your family and friends about the show and that they can download our free show app from the Apple Store or Google Play, as well as a variety of other podcast providers. Take a minute to comment on our program wherever you get it from, and like us on Twitter. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until we meet again, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!